My name is Ulf Vierke. I'm director of Iwalewahaus, the Center for African Art, mainly modern art at Bayreuth University. And within the cluster, I have a research project on collections on the African continent. My project and my own work are centered within the research section Arts and Aesthetics. The title of my project is On Artworks, Art Collections and Art Archives on the African continent, and now due to Corona crisis also from the African continent. My project was the last to start in our research section. It only started January last year, and 2 months after the start, the postdoc of my project left for maternal leave, and that implies that the project probably is going to be a bit longer lasting than initially planned. Some of the key questions that we are talking about or that we are trying to address in the project, I probably can best explain with the help of a colleague or friend who's with me today. That's this. I don't know really whether he's friendly guy, but he's called the Lone Man in Cuba. And the Lone Man in Cuba really triggered some of the key questions within the already going on project. And one of the questions was, is it really a work by Tijani Mayakiri? On the backside, it's written or signed Tijani Mayakiri, but all the other works that we have in our collection of Tijani Mayakiri do not really fit this one on first sight. Now, the questions of the project are, how can we ascribe, first of all, an artwork to individualistic styles, to styles? But of course, we are not really talking about styles. We are interested in the characteristics, in the form of the art objects as such, and how they relate then later on to the character or the form of the collection. And with this work, it's quite interesting because on the second consultation, it perfectly fits, but it's really work to get there, and it's some days of work to know that this is a Tijani Mayakiri of its best kind. Of course, I do not have to say too much about why it's really fascinating to work on artworks like Lone Man in Cuba. But the other layer in our research, of course, are the collections on the African continent. And there you really won't find too much research. So nobody so far had a thorough look on private collections, but also on major institutional collections like the Makerere University's collection, which is part of our research as well. The methodology that we apply on first hand is the classical iconology that you would find in our discipline. One of the points, of course, is that in the field of African modern art, you hardly find really convincing examples of applying this methodology. And secondly, it would have been a transfer of the findings that we gather on the level of the object and transfer the concepts there, like rhythm, like framing, to the above level, the collections as such. One quite interesting aspect is probably also related to the new situation that we had to deal with Right now, we can't travel to Africa, and thus we depend upon different corpuses for our data analysis, and mainly digital corpuses, of course. Thus, the shift towards the digital had been much faster than we expected. And secondly, getting into touch with the question, what might fluid IT ontologies look like? We are there. And with Mirko Schönfeld, we have our hands upon that. And it really might help us in the research to look at larger bodies of data, digital data, and apply tools that come from applied IT sciences. Multiplicity, of course, is key to the very setup of the project as such. When we look at the collections and their multiple layers that we would like to decipher in a way, or at least to take as some central perspective within our analysis. The other concept, of course, is relationality. Basically, that's what the whole thing is about when we talk about IT ontologies, how the different layers in between the artwork, the art object, or the aesthetic individual, how we would call it in our research section right now, and the above level of form, the collection, the institution, how this is related. But this is the area where we find our major questions and where we do not yet have the answers. Right now, it feels like we are down in the machine room, getting our hands dirty with black oil, etc. And the machine room is the database, the work on the database. That's really working with heavy tools on the one hand, but it's fascinating to see how this relates to the way that we can cooperate and that we really can be part of a knowledge production that is a joint knowledge production with our partners in the ACCs and in our case in museums on the African continent.